If you're worried about heart attacks and strokes, then it's important to make sure your arteries are healthy and not at risk of getting blocked. Although some people think heart disease is simply genetic, there are many studies which show that the foods we eat play a huge role in the health of our arteries. That's why in this video we're going to reveal the 7 worst foods for blocked arteries so you can avoid them. Plus uncover how one simple food switch could dramatically improve the health of your arteries. First, can you take a moment to like this video and subscribe to this channel for even more great information on how to avoid heart disease. I want to make sure you get all my updates. Our number 7 worst foods for blocked arteries is a food that features heavily on most menus. It's salty, crunchy and hard to resist. Can you guess what it is? French fries. This fast food staple has been criticised for creating poor health. But does the science back this up? Let's look at the evidence. According to a study published in 2017 of nearly 4,500 adults, eating French fries more than twice weekly could double your risk of early death. Interestingly, the researchers concluded that it's the oils the potatoes were fried in that were increasing the health risk, and not the potatoes themselves. So what's the problem with the oils? High-end restaurants and fast food outlets alike use vegetable oils to cook their fries. These type of oils contain omega-6 fatty acids. When eaten in a whole food form, such as in nuts and seeds, they can be beneficial. But when exposed to light and very high temperatures, they become rancid and highly inflammatory in the body. Inflammation inside the arteries can lead to blockages. So if you're using vegetable oils at home or buying products that contain them, why not swap these out for extra virgin olive oil? This oil has been cold pressed and is stored in dark bottles so that the omega fatty acids don't go rancid. There are numerous studies proving the cardioprotective abilities of olive oil, including lowering inflammation, improving the function of blood vessel linings, protecting LDL cholesterol from oxidation, a process which results in the cholesterol blocking arteries, helping lower blood pressure. All great news for keeping our arteries healthy. Another issue with fries is the amount of salt found in them. High salt intake is associated with an increased risk of cardiovascular disease. We'll dive into this in just a minute, as our number 6 worst food is another highly salted food. Number 6, instant noodles. If you're in a pinch, instant noodles might seem like the perfect fix. Pour some boiling water on them and you're good to go. But what effect do they have on the health of your arteries? Well, one packet of instant noodle contains 1,722 milligrams of sodium. This is more than half of the daily recommended amount. And any cardiologist worth their salt would advise their patients to ensure they're not over-consuming sodium. Having high amounts of salt each day is associated with elevated blood pressure. This increases the risk of developing coronary artery disease. Having hypertension causes more pressure against the artery walls. Over time, this added force can damage arteries, leading to bleeds and also blockages. One study that was conducted over 10 to 15 years found that reducing sodium intake decreased the risk of a cardiovascular event by up to 30%. Furthermore, instant noodles contain an ingredient called monosodium glutamate, or MSG for short. This is a food additive that improves the taste of otherwise bland foods. Studies have associated extremely high MSG consumption to weight gain and increased blood pressure, both bad news for the health of our arteries and cardiovascular system. On top of this, instant noodles provide little nutrition, with low amounts of protein and fibre. These macronutrients help give you a feeling of fullness. With a low amount of these in your diet, you're more likely to overeat and become overweight. Plus, not eating enough fibre is associated with increased risk of heart disease. Now we're about to learn how preservatives can affect the health of our arteries. Let's look at our number 5, cured meats. A few slices of turkey or ham in a sandwich can seem like a healthy lunch, but many health experts warn that cured meats are some of the worst for heart health. But why is this? Firstly, cured meats tend to be extremely high in sodium, which you now know can have a negative impact on your blood pressure and arteries. The American Heart Association says that 6 thin slices of deli meat can contain half the daily recommended level of sodium. Plus, one hot dog contains approximately 20% of the recommended daily intake, and that's without the sauce and the bread. Secondly, cured meats normally contain chemical preservatives. The issue with this is that it creates an inflammatory response within the body. When this occurs, blockages and plaques start to build up on the arterial wall. One particular preservative used in cured meats is sodium nitrate. Researchers who analysed data from 1988 to 1994, taken from the 3rd National Health and Examination Survey, concluded that nitrates in the form of a preservative leads to hypertension. Next up, a food with plenty of cured meats and could also send your blood sugar level soaring. Our number 4 worst food for blocked arteries is meat lovers' pizza. When it comes to takeaway, pizza seems like the perfect option. Friday night hits and no one wants to make dinner, so why not order a pizza, right? This type of pizza is not only loaded with cured meat, but is highly processed with very little nutrition. This brings me to the problem with processed flour. When we eat food made from processed flour, whether it be noodles, bread or pizza, it dramatically spikes blood sugar. So what has this got to do with blocked arteries, you might be asking? Well, these types of processed carbohydrates contain a starch called amylopectin A. When we digest this starch, it's quickly converted to glucose or sugar in the blood. The glucose is then converted to triglycerides in the liver. Triglycerides enter the bloodstream as something called very low density lipoproteins, VLDL. Then through a series of steps leads to the formation of plaque buildup in the arteries. This explains why diabetics have such an increased risk of a heart attack or stroke, as diabetes is a condition where blood sugar is dangerously elevated. Further to this, white flour is highly addictive. Eating foods that are made from processed flour causes our brain to release feel-good hormones. This creates a feeling of pleasure. The brain then wants to get another hit of feel-good hormones, so it looks for more food to get the same hit again. Hence why it can be hard to stop eating these refined types of foods. A vicious cycle then begins with weight gain, high blood sugar, high triglycerides, and before you know it, your arteries are suffering. My number 3 might not come as a surprise now that I've mentioned the devastating effect high blood sugar can have on our cardiovascular health. We'll get to that in just a minute, but it's time to let you in on a world of knowledge about heart disease and nutrition. If you ever wanted to know why heart disease rates all over the world are skyrocketing and what you can do to prevent it, then join our Heart Disease Code program today. Clicking the link in the description below will give you 2 free gifts from the Heart Disease Code program. Discover the truth about fat and cholesterol, plus watch the first episode of our comprehensive docu-series, The Untold Story of Heart Disease. Experience the most extensive collection of heart disease knowledge in this year's Making documentary series. We spoke to some of the world's leading cardiologists and researchers on heart disease to uncover how you can fight and prevent heart disease with easy steps that will allow you to transform your health and that of your loved ones. To get these 2 free gifts, all you've got to do is click the link below. And number 3 is candy. For decades, saturated fat was branded as the biggest dietary cause of heart disease. But scientists are now saying that refined carbohydrates and simple sugars may be more of a threat. A 2016 report published in the medical journal JAMA uncovered that studies founded by the sugar industry were largely responsible for pushing the belief that saturated fat was responsible for heart disease. Hence why an increasing number of cardiologists are advising patients to avoid added sugar rather than saturated fats. The issue being that people who eat foods that are high in sugar have an increased risk of diabetes, obesity, hypertension, inflammatory conditions. These greatly increase the risk of plaques forming and arteries becoming blocked. A study conducted over 15 years compared people's intake of added sugar and the mortality from heart disease. It found those who got 17 to 21% of their calories from added sugar had a 38% higher risk of dying from cardiovascular disease compared with those who consumed 8% of their calories as added sugar. Dr. Hu, who conducted the study, said, basically the higher the intake of added sugar, the higher the risk for heart disease. Seems like a good reason to put the candy down if you ask me. You might now be wondering, what about sweetened foods or drinks that are sugar-free? And that brings me to my number 2 worst food for blocked arteries, and that is diet drinks. Research shows that there appears to be no benefit in choosing artificially sweetened drinks over sugary beverages for heart health. One study followed 2,564 individuals for 10 years. It showed those who drank diet soda daily increased their risk of stroke by 48% and vascular disorders by 61%, compared to those who did not drink diet soda. But why is this? Scientists have found that artificial sweeteners have negative metabolic effects, much the same as sugar. They can cause weight gain, affect blood sugar, impact the health of the gut, and can cause abnormally high levels of insulin. All of these can increase inflammation and therefore the risk of blocked arteries. Studies show people who consume the most of these sweeteners double their risk of diabetes and abnormal blood lipids, both huge warning signs of arterial problems. Now we're about to reveal how one type of fat can significantly increase the risk of blocked arteries. Our number 1 food to avoid is trans fats. Trans fats are also known as hydrogenated oils. These have been banned in the US and other Western countries, but they're still finding their way into certain foods. This is because food manufacturers are still allowed to use them if it's less than 0.5 of a gram per serving. However, the amount of trans fat can build up in the body, and we suggest avoiding any food that contains them. Studies showed that for every 2% of calories from trans fat consumed daily, the risk of heart disease rises by 23%. Trans fats lower your protective HDL cholesterol while raising LDL bad cholesterol, not good for heart disease. They also create the smaller, dense type of LDL cholesterol. Some experts now claim this is the most dangerous type for blocked arteries. Sadly, on a standard blood lipid test, the amount of this type of small LDL is not measured. Some cardiologists are now saying that a particle size test that shows the amount of small LDL cholesterol is more predictive of cardiovascular disease. They claim that smaller LDL cholesterol is more prone to oxidation, causing it to damage the lining of blood vessels. Cardiologist Jack Wolfson says that the more particles you have and the smaller they are, the greater the chances they can crash into arterial walls. Numerous studies support this conclusion. For example, a 2001 study found those with the highest amount of LDL particles had 4 times the risk of a heart attack in comparison to those people with the lowest amount. So one of the key ways to keep our LDL particles healthy and avoid blocked arteries is to keep trans fats out of the diet. They can be found in foods such as microwavable popcorn, cereals, ready-mixed cake mixtures and cookies. So be sure to read the ingredients if you do buy any packaged foods. That concludes our 7 worst foods for blocked arteries. Let us know in the comments below if any surprised you. Make sure to stay tuned to Heart Disease Code to discover more wonderful nutrition and wellness insights. And once again, don't leave without grabbing both of your 2 free gifts. Just click that link below. Thanks for watching. Have a heart-healthy day.